The setting transitions to an auction venue where Jo-hyun and Irene are seated. Jo-hyun takes note of the surprisingly sparse crowd in the room, a consequence of Irene's recent inclusion. In just 3 minutes, the attendance has dwindled by half as attendees hastily depart to attend to unforeseen troubles. Despite a factory fire involving CEO Kwon facilities in China, Jo-hyun observes that the CEO Kwon remains, hinting at a particular interest in the items up for bid. Amidst this unfolding scene, Irene's attention is drawn to a royal Russian artifact on display, a relic boasting over a century of history. She turns to Jo-hyun, inquiring if he plans to place a bid on the intriguing item. Jo-hyun dismisses her question, stating that the items he is truly interested in will surface in the latter half of the auction. As he contemplates the unfolding events, he can't help but perceive Irene as the god of failure, a stark departure from the person he remembered. Yet, there's a nuanced realization that Irene's changed demeanor isn't an act. Something fundamental about her has transformed. Jo-hyun delves into a peculiar train of thought, considering the possibility that a misfortune relic has attached itself to Irene without her knowledge. This clandestine connection has drastically altered her life, influencing her personality in unexpected ways. The revelation dawns on him that the original god of failure might have been a genuinely kind-hearted person. However, the inadvertent attachment of the misfortune relic to Irene catalyzed a dramatic shift, corrupting her personality in the process. Irene, unaware of this cosmic interference, appears genuinely changed. In the midst of these reflections, Irene expresses gratitude towards Jo-hyun for his presence and support. Perplexed, he inquires about the reason behind her gratitude. Blushing, Irene admits that it's because he listened and believed her when she shared her misfortunes. The simple act of having someone to confide in has evidently made a significant difference in Irene's perspective. As the two engage in this heartfelt conversation, a sudden notification disrupts the atmosphere. The message alerts them to the fact that the relic's aura is intensifying, a reaction triggered by Irene's improved mood. Irene's joy radiates as she happily shares with Jo-hyun how something seemingly insignificant made her incredibly happy. As she expresses her delight, her aura visibly strengthens, glowing with an ethereal light that transforms the atmosphere. However, the elation triggers an unexpected consequence. The entire building begins to shake. A notification abruptly appears, revealing that Irene's misfortune aura has explosively spread within a 1-kilometer radius, casting a dark veil of severe misfortune over Jo-hyun. Frustration creases Jo-hyun's face as his relics chime in with a dire warning. The ominous aura surrounding Irene threatens to harm the relics, leaving Jo-hyun bewildered by the revelation that the potency of Irene's relic intensifies with her increasing happiness. Despite his rapidly advancing tolerance skill, a sense of urgency looms. The continued escalation could result in the shattering of his precious relics. In an attempt to manage the situation, Jo-hyun cautions Irene against building high expectations. Their trade agreement remains in limbo, as they haven't even discussed the specifics of their arrangement. Jo-hyun raises a poignant question, challenging Irene's certainty that her improved luck won't inadvertently bring misfortune to those in her proximity. Irene, grappling with a twinge of sadness, acknowledges the validity of Jo-hyun's concern, realizing the complex interplay between her newfound fortune and the unintended consequences it brings. Just as the tension mounts, a notification breaks the intense atmosphere. Irene's mood takes a dip, and with it, the strength of the relic's attack returns to its normal state. A wave of relief washes over Jo-hyun, momentarily alleviating the pressing threat. The auction, momentarily interrupted by the unfolding supernatural events, resumes its course. Observing the bidders, Jo-hyun notices a peculiar state of mind among them, influenced by the lingering effects of Irene's relic aura. In a strategic revelation, he contemplates leveraging Irene's aura to his advantage. Recognizing an opportunity to manipulate the situation, Jo-hyun envisions using Irene as a tool to clear the remaining attendees, capitalizing on the altered mental states caused by the relics. Sensitive to Irene's emotions, Jo-hyun reassures her that there's no need for excessive sadness. He subtly hints that increasing her luck might not necessarily resolve the underlying issue of unintentionally bringing misfortune to others. Transitioning into a more practical mode, Jo-hyun initiates a business-like discussion. In response to Irene's earlier expressed desire to understand how to improve her luck, he pledges to share his insights. Excitement gleams in Irene's eyes as she eagerly awaits Jo-hyun's guidance. Irene's excitement registers with Jo-hyun, but a cynical thought crosses his mind. Did he intentionally feed her favorable statements to boost her mood? It occurs to him that he may have tricked Irene into thinking he could swiftly resolve all her issues. Irene, now in an extremely pleased state, emanates a stronger relic aura that has a profound impact on the attendees. The heightened aura leads to a loss of reason among the bidders, who recklessly bid on anything they lay their eyes on, squandering their money on seemingly useless yet expensive items. Jo-hyun, however, strategically benefits from this turn of events. With the attendees spending recklessly in the first half of the auction, he successfully secures all the relics he desires in the second half. Yet, he concedes a few relics to CEO Kwon, who seems impervious to the relic aura, likely due to his high domination trait. Despite this setback, Jo Hyun takes solace in his superior knowledge about relics, recognizing that the ones conceded to CEO Kwon aren't particularly useful. As Jo Hyun reviews the relic list, he notices that the god-tier relic mentioned in the prophecy has yet to make an appearance. Sensing the end of the auction approaching, Irene confronts Jo Hyun about their trade. To Irene, it seems like Jo Hyun is evading the matter. Apologizing, Jo Hyun suggests moving to a quieter location to finalize the remaining details and wrap up their trade. However, just as Jo Hyun prepares to leave, the auction unveils a surprise item, Qinshi Guang's elixir plant, a gold-tier relic with remarkable healing properties. Both Jo Hyun and CEO Kwon recognize the profound significance of this relic. Determined to secure it, Jo Hyun initiates the bidding. CEO Kwon, equally intrigued, enters the fierce competition. The relic holds historical weight, belonging to the powerful monarch Qin Shi Huang from the Qin dynasty. Rumors circulated about the discovery of the elixir of life, prompting Emperor Qin Shi Huang to dispatch his servants on a quest to secure it first. After years of relentless searching, the coveted elixir was revealed to be the almond sapling. Before his demise, Jo Hyun found himself entangled with the relic, already in possession of CEO Kwon. The relic's deadly auras left Jo Hyun in a precarious state, dependent on the fruit produced by the elixir plant for survival. Rather than receiving payment for his efforts, Jo Hyun was rewarded only with the life-sustaining fruit, tethering him to the whims of CEO Kwon and becoming a figurative leash on his life. In the present, Jo Hyun recognizes the venue as the place where CEO Kwon acquired the relic. Fueled by determination, he sets his sights on reclaiming it, turning the auction into a strategic battlefield. The auction organizer beams with satisfaction as the relic garners attention from the attendees. The bidding commences, with Jo Hyun initiating at $400,000. CEO Kwon promptly counters with $500,000. The competitive fervor escalates as others join the bidding. A pivotal moment arises when CEO Kwon boldly offers $10 million. Jo Hyun, feeling the pressure, becomes irritated, questioning if CEO Kwon comprehends the god-tier healing abilities of the relic. Realizing a direct financial confrontation might not be in his favor, Jo Hyun shifts his strategy. Turning to Irene, Jo Hyun proposes an immediate initiation of their trade. He assures her that he will find a solution to her issues, but in exchange, he requests her assistance in obtaining the relic. Irene, undeterred and confident in her financial acumen, agrees to the deal. As the bidding war for the elixir plan intensifies, the figures soar into the stratosphere, reaching a staggering $50 million. However, CEO Kwon, with a calculated move, raises the stakes even further, placing a jaw-dropping bid of $100 million. Jo Hyun, observing the escalation, deems it insane, realizing that any figure beyond $100 million is well beyond his budgetary constraints. The situation appears grim for Jo Hyun from the outset. Yet, the unexpected unfolds as Irene, seemingly unfazed by the astronomical bids, steps into the arena with a bold offer of $150 million, surprising both the audience and her fellow bidders. Capitalizing on this unforeseen turn, the attendees, already astonished by Irene's entrance into the bidding war, now find themselves even more shocked as the dynamics take an unexpected twist. CEO Kwon continues to play the game, bidding $160 million. Irene, however, responds with a confident smile, escalating the bid to an impressive $200 million. The back and forth between CEO Kwon and Irene creates a palpable tension in the auction hall. Despite his right-hand advisor suggesting otherwise, CEO Kwon, seemingly relentless, places another bid at $220 million. However, Irene surprises everyone once again, boldly offering $300 million. The escalating figures culminate in Irene securing the elixir plant for a staggering $500 million. The scene then transitions to a more private setting, a secluded room where Jo Hyun and Irene find themselves alone. Jo Hyun, contemplating the exorbitant price tag, questions Irene about the hefty sum, even for someone of her affluent stature. In response, Irene reassures him that the cost is inconsequential to her. With the elixir plant now in Irene's possession, Jo Hyun is keen to delve into the details of their agreement. Curious about how Jo Hyun plans to address her issues, Irene wonders if he intends to share his luck or provide a charm, such as a rabbit's foot. Jo Hyun, however, surprises her by revealing that there's nothing tangible he can give her. Irene, taken aback, questions whether Jo Hyun is attempting to deceive her. Undeterred, Jo Hyun urges her to hear him out until the end, emphasizing that her problem isn't one that can be fixed by accumulating more possessions. Jo Hyun elucidates that the solution lies in extracting something from Irene herself. In essence, he proposes that she hands over an item currently in his possession. He further explains that the only way to resolve her predicament is to rid her life of the misfortune relic she currently possesses. Although this remedy will come at a cost, it will also allow Jo Hyun to gain possession of the misfortune relic for himself. It's a situation that, in Jo Hyun's eyes, maximizes the benefits for him. In the midst of the auction aftermath, Jo Hyun engages in a candid conversation with Irene, addressing a matter that seems to hold the key to her persistent misfortune. He leans in and tells her, with a mix of assurance and concern, that he's quite certain she must have noticed an odd item that seems to follow her wherever she goes. According to Jo Hyun, if Irene hands over this mysterious item, her issues will be resolved. However, Irene, with a puzzled expression, denies the existence of any such item in her possession. Jo Hyun, though, finds this assertion implausible, convinced that the solution lies in identifying and surrendering this elusive item. In an attempt to unveil the hidden object, Jo Hyun instructs Irene to showcase all the items she currently carries. He believes that among them, the source of her misfortune might reveal itself. To Jo Hyun's surprise, Irene discloses that she has previously attempted this, but no item of significance ever surfaced. Intrigued by the mysterious nature of her predicament, Jo Hyun delves deeper into the investigation. He asks Irene if she has ever noticed random tattoos appearing on her body. Irene's reaction to this question confirms Jo Hyun's suspicion. She indeed has tattoos. Drawing upon his knowledge of relics, Jo Hyun explains the two major categories: expandable relics and possession relics. The tattoos that manifest on a user's body fall into the possession relics category. He draws a parallel with Sasaki Yuka, who had a tattoo signifying her mastery of the future guide. Jo Hyun clarifies that while expandable relics have internal usage limits and can be used by anyone, possession relics have no such constraints but are exclusive to their masters. He underscores the historical significance of possession relics, emphasizing their dominance in the relic domain. Intrigued, Irene conveys her willingness to show Jo Hyun a picture of the tattoos on her arms. As he examines the image, Jo Hyun realizes that Irene's relic is a parasitic relic type, a rare category of relics that forcefully reside within the user's body. This revelation sheds light on the mysterious nature of Irene's misfortune, but it also deepens the complexity of the situation. Given the god-tier status of Irene's relic and its notorious reputation for bringing misfortune, Jo Hyun initially anticipated a relic akin to the golden apple of Eris. However, the parasitic nature of Irene's relic adds a layer of intricacy to the equation. Jo Hyun realizes that finding a solution is far from the easy task he initially anticipated. Acknowledging the complexity of Irene's circumstances, Jo Hyun decides to provide her with his contact number, expressing a genuine interest in working together to devise a solution. He suggests meeting up when Irene has more time, fostering a collaborative approach to confront the enigmatic relic that burdens her life. As Jo Hyun takes his leave, he contemplates the limitations of forcefully extracting Irene's ability and considers the alternative, turning her into an ally. Recognizing the value of forming connections, Jo Hyun sees the potential benefits of aligning himself with Irene. In a world where relics wield extraordinary powers, alliances can prove invaluable. The narrative then pivots to the auction proceedings, where Irene has successfully completed the payment for the coveted almond sapling. As a result, the relic now belongs to Jo Hyun. The auction managers inform him that the other items he secured will be available for collection once their respective payments are settled. Jo Hyun plans to call his subordinates for the payments, but a notable absence catches his attention. Sung-woo, a member of his team, is not responding to calls. Sensing something amiss, Jo Hyun decides to approach the auction manager with a favor. The scene transitions to the outside, where Sung-woo and his team are seen running through the streets with the money entrusted to them by Jo Hyun. Sung-woo, reveling in the newfound wealth, instructs his subordinates to take a moment to rest, envisioning a life of comfort and luxury. Unexpectedly, Jo Hyun confronts Sung-woo with a mix of anger and disappointment. Accusing him of attempting to abscond with Jo Hyun money, Jo Hyun forces Sung-woo to face the consequences of betrayal. Sung-woo, visibly frightened, hastily offers an apology, realizing the severity of his actions. In response to Sung-woo's betrayal, Jo Hyun unveils a relic stone. When activated, a blue aura emanates from it, summoning a stone pole behind Jo Hyun. This relic is revealed to be the Code of Laws, a relic dating back to ancient Babylonian times, created by King Hammurabi. Its most famous principle, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, becomes the backdrop for the confrontation. As the old adage goes, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, Jo Hyun seizes the perfect counter-relic from the auction, embodying the essence of swift retribution. The shock on Sung-woo and his subordinates' faces is palpable. realizing the gravity of the situation. Jo Hyun, having secured this brand new relic earlier than expected through a favor with one of the auction staff members, brandishes the artifact with an air of justice. The words echo in the air as Jo Hyun declares that he will respond to Sung Woo's betrayal in kind, invoking the principle of reciprocity encapsulated in the relic's power. As Jo Hyun unleashed the power of the relic, a spell enveloped Sung Woo and his subordinates, casting an ethereal connection between them and the mystical artifact. The accompanying relic book displayed the names of Sung Woo and his team, confirming the efficacy of the relic. Inspired by the ancient principle of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth from the Code of Hammurabi, the relic sought to retaliate against any harm directed at its wielder. However, Jo Hyun's inquisitive nature prompted him to explore the relic's capabilities further. Considering the Code of Hammurabi as a legal compendium, he wondered if the relic could extend its influence beyond mere retaliation, imposing restrictions on the present and future actions of its targets. As the relic's power manifested, the clutches that had ensnared Sung Woo and his subordinates vanished, leaving them bewildered and uncertain of the mystical forces at play. A confident smile played on Jo Hyun's lips as he revealed that the spell they experienced was a deliberate test of the relic's capabilities. Addressing Sung Woo directly, Jo Hyun explained the terms of their newfound arrangement. Loyalty and avoidance of betrayal would ensure the safety of Sung Woo and his subordinates. However, Jo Hyun issued a stern warning. Any future attempts at betrayal would result in swift and severe consequences. The relic, imbued with the essence of ancient justice, symbolized not only retribution but also a contractual bond between Jo Hyun and his subordinates. Sung Woo's subordinates, witnessing the relic's power firsthand, confirmed the veracity of Jo Hyun's claims. The stone pillar's brief appearance and disappearance served as a tangible reminder of the consequences that would befall those who dared to betray their newfound master. Sung Woo, grappling with the unexpected turn of events, questioned Jo Hyun about his motivations. In response, Jo Hyun offered cryptic insights, hinting at a world on the brink of upheaval. Despite the ominous forewarning, Jo Hyun assured Sung Woo and his subordinates that their loyalty would shield them from the impending chaos. The promise of generous compensation for their diligence and the potential for greater earnings than the stolen amount further incentivized their allegiance. Reluctantly agreeing to work under Jo Hyun's command, Sung Woo sought clarification on the nature of their tasks. Jo Hyun, maintaining an air of mystery, assured them that all would be revealed in due time. The narrative transitioned to the following day, where Jo Hyun, Sung Woo, and the others found themselves in a hotel room. Sung Woo, still bewildered by the recent events, questioned the presence of a plan in Jo Hyun's accommodations. In the midst of their assigned task, Jo Hyun elucidates to Sung Woo the nature of their responsibilities, specifically, the care and cultivation of a nearby sapling. This peculiar relic, housing an irate entity within it, protests against what it perceives as ill treatment by humans. Jo Hyun, nonchalantly dismissing any concerns, instructs Sung Woo to initiate the process by placing the plant into a pot, reassuring him that the plant poses no threat. Adding a surprising twist to the situation, Jo Hyun discloses that the sapling holds a staggering value of $500 million, urging Sung Woo to handle it with utmost care. The revelation leaves Sung Woo visibly taken aback, grappling with the newfound importance of his botanical charge. As Sung Woo tentatively touches the plant relic, the relic voices its displeasure at being handled by a human. However, a noticeable shift occurs once Sung Woo successfully places the plant in the pot. Suddenly, the relic's attitude transforms, and it begins to exhibit a fondness for both Sung Woo and his subordinates. Jo Hyun, keenly observing this change, deduces that Sung Woo and his team possess a remarkable sociability trait. This insight reveals the subtle intricacies of relics, their interactions with users, and the traits that make certain individuals more compatible caretakers for these mystical entities. The previous night's events come into play as Jo Hyun reminisces about forming a contract with the sapling. However, the sapling's incessant noise disrupted Jo Hyun's peaceful sleep. He shares an intriguing detail about the sapling. It harbors a dislike for users with high domination traits, but favors those with high sociability traits. Sung Woo and his subordinates, unknowingly, emerge as the perfect candidates for tending to the enigmatic plant. In a strategic move, Jo Hyun decides to delegate the responsibility of caring for the sapling to Sung Woo and his team. It's a task that Jo Hyun himself preferred to avoid, recognizing the disruptive nature of the sapling. However, in Sung Woo, he sees an unwittingly perfect match for the job. Amidst the unfolding dynamics with the sapling, Jo Hyun's tranquil moment is abruptly interrupted by an incoming call. The number may be unfamiliar, yet the identity behind it is all too recognizable: CEO Kwon. Answering the call, Jo Hyun braces himself for the conversation, suspecting that CEO Kwon has already delved into the intricacies of Jo Hyun's recent actions regarding the almond sapling. CEO Kwon, without preamble, gets to the heart of the matter. He reveals that he has heard about Jo Hyun's involvement with the almond sapling previously owned by Irene Hilton and expresses a desire for a discussion on the matter. In the midst of the unfolding events, Jo Hyun addresses CEO Kwon's inquiry about the almond sapling with a dismissive tone. He cites his busy schedule as a reason to cut the conversation short, prompting an abrupt end to the call. This seemingly nonchalant response infuriates CEO Kwon, leading to visible frustration. Yoon Si-woo, witnessing CEO Kwon's agitation, queries about the outcome of the conversation and whether it went as planned. CEO Kwon, displeased with the way Jo Hyun handled the call, slams his hand on the desk in frustration. He vents his frustration to Yoon Si-woo, expressing his dismay at Jo Hyun's refusal to engage in a conversation. Despite the lack of communication, CEO Kwon acknowledges the exceptional power emanating from the almond sapling relic. It holds the strongest aura among all the relics he has encountered so far. He conveys his determination to obtain the relic and laments that, had it not been for Yoon Si-woo's interference, he would have resorted to any means necessary. Yoon Si-woo, sensing an opportunity to prove his worth and gain recognition, takes responsibility for the situation. He assures CEO Kwon that he will do whatever it takes to secure the sapling, downplaying Jo Hyun's significance by referring to him as a commoner. In a strategic move, Yoon Si-woo seeks CEO Kwon's permission to access some of the relics stored within the company, suggesting that utilizing these resources will aid in achieving their goal. The narrative then shifts back to Jo Hyun's perspective, where Sung-woo voices his frustration at Jo Hyun for hanging up on CEO Kwon. He highlights the immense power and influence that CEO Kwon holds in the country, emphasizing the potential repercussions of disregarding him. In response, Jo Hyun rebukes Sung-woo, warning him against rudeness. He playfully threatens to use his golden axe on Sung-woo, prompting a swift apology from Sung-woo. As Jo Hyun departs from the current scene, he reflects on CEO Kwon's character, a determined and formidable individual who stops at nothing to attain his desires. Jo Hyun anticipates that CEO Kwon will intensify efforts to track him down and possibly launch an ambush. This realization prompts Jo Hyun to acknowledge the need for heightened vigilance to protect the elixir plant from potential threats orchestrated by CEO Kwon. Jo Hyun acknowledged that he needed to disrupt CEO Kwon's pursuit, signaled by the activation of the silver axe. Understanding this, Jo Hyun deliberately moved through the open, enticing anyone tailing him. Eventually, he encountered Yoon Si-woo, who appeared to be working independently. Jo Hyun sensed the presence of a relic, even though its aura was faint. Yoon Si-woo, frustrated by the investigators' failure to locate Jo Hyun, entered a restaurant. Inside, he spotted Jo Hyun at the counter. Approaching cautiously, Yoon Si-woo asked if Jo Hyun was indeed the one he was seeking. Jo Hyun, aware that Yoon Si-woo had taken the bait, opted to remain silent, testing the waters. Irritated by the lack of response, Yoon Si-woo slammed his hand on the counter, demanding an answer. In a swift move, Jo Hyun pushed Yoon Si-woo, causing him to tumble to the floor. Expressing disapproval, Jo Hyun chided Yoon Si-woo for shouting in his face. He suggested that if Yoon Si-woo had business with him, a more polite approach would have sufficed. Yoon Si-woo, still on the floor, countered that Jo Hyun initiated the confrontation. Jo Hyun's senses heightened, allowing him to perceive the relic's aura more intensely. In response to the escalating situation, Jo Hyun made a decision. He would be claiming those relics for himself.